difficult call. My history is I lost my son last year in August at the age of 30. And
that's very, very
sadly,
sad.
Yeah, and sadly my experiences are that what people implement at the time of implementation and what materialises in the world we live in isn't quite the same. So in some aspects, I'm all for it, because I think there are people out there that need to have the ability to endorse what they want doing. But sadly, there's also systems in place that can manipulate, for want of better expression, what happens down the line.
Well,
that happened in the case of my son.
So what happened?
Well, Bahram died at the age of 30. We had the consultant turn around and say to me that he could have lived longer, but it only been a matter of days. So because he was on palliative care, which was meant to be supportive care, but they described as palliative care, they gave up on him. Now, I couldn't believe this. And he was born with half a heart 30 years earlier. He died with 6 life-threatening conditions. He was a fighter. My baby wanted to live, and they took his life away. And I'm fighting and fighting now. I formed the foundation to help others because I cannot bring my baby back. And I really, really feel, because I think that, yes, most definitely there's people out there that, for the right reasons, legitimately would want this to happen, and it should. But where are we going to be when the system fails yet again? And sadly, what was meant to be, for the right reasons, is implemented in a way that it isn't. And that's my honest feeling on it, that I think that it's important that people like Esther Hansen and many others, that for the right reasons feel that this should be implemented and endorsed. But if we don't have systems in place that down the line it's not taken advantage of, as was the case in my son, then where do we go from there?
Can I just get some things straight in my mind? It's a very upsetting story and a very emotional. Was your son, who died age 30 with, as you say, 6 conditions, who'd been born without a heart 30 years ago, was it here in this country? Was it in Spain? Where did this happen?
No. This is all in London. I'm a Londoner.
This was in London. Okay, yeah. So you're calling from Spain, but this happened in London, and you say that you think that your son could have lived.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got a foundation, Patients' Lives Matter. I've got a coroner's inquest. I've got a huge number of things going on. Just look up Patients' Lives Matter. You'll see the fight I'm having. But my worry is that, sadly, in the way that the system and the world lives today, what was a good idea at the time of implementation, down the line, can sometimes be abused.
Do you think that as this goes through second reading, third reading, back to the Lords, back to the Commons, final assent, do you think that MPs and peers will be able to introduce amendments that will satisfy the parents of children who are born, differently abled? I've seen a friend of mine on Twitter who's very, very anxious. She has a Down syndrome daughter. She doesn't think that there are enough advocates for the disabled, the vulnerable in this bill. Do you think they can be written into the legislation, Jay?
I don't know, because the thing is that it's a good idea for the right reasons, for the right people, but so many things in life, as time progresses, supportive care, palliative care isn't meant to be care that says you're no longer cared for and you should die.
Well, how do you define palliative care, though? I thought palliative care was, you're not going to get better, so we're going to ease your life, make life less painful. We're going to make it easier. We're going to palliate it. We're not going to cure you.
People can come off palliative care and continue living. At the time palliative care is implemented... Well,
that's what happened to my mother. You're right there, because I remember she was in hospital at the beginning of lockdown in 2020, was it? And they basically said, that she's gone palliative care. She died a year later, having come off palliative care. So, yes, I think you're right there, but I'm not sure... I don't know how long they expect you to live after you come off palliative care, whether that's significant or not.
Yeah, I have statements from consultants saying, well, because he's in palliative care and he may have lived only a matter of days, that they decided that it wasn't worth it. Now, look how absurd the system has implemented itself in the case of my son. And I'm just worried that I don't know is the honest answer, that down the line, something as critical as this, how it may evolve. So I'm not against it because I think people have a right, but I'm just very, very nervous.
And Jay, your son is no longer with you, which is, as I can hear from in your voice, really wrenchingly sad. He wanted to live, you say. He was a fighter, but the system didn't...
He was born with half a heart in 1993. He subsequently had 6 life-threatening conditions and a dozen other conditions. He was a love life to the fullest. He's developmentally delayed, which meant that mum and daddy would advocate for him. We had a huge issue with DNR, where the hospitals kept insisting on trying to implement DNR. And I said, why would we implement DNR when we are here? The best advocates to decide what my son would like is mum and dad that have been in 30 years. Why would we give it to a third party to do? For what reason?
Did you have sorry to hurry you, but we've got to change up. Did you have also you must have had POA, power of attorney?
No, because he was developmentally delayed and we never ever needed it. We never implemented power of attorney.
Okay.
The judicial system for implementing power of attorney is quite engrossed.
It is. It's quite lengthy, and actually, we had it for my mum. But listen, Jay, a very sad story, and thank you for setting out how it feels to be the parent of a child who was, born with complex needs and who you feel the system failed. Thank you, Jay.